Hello and welcome to this quick tutorial. I got a character from a gentleman, and his question was, how does he take this character that he has created, import it into Cartoon Animator, and have it riggable? I do have some other tutorials that goes through this step by step. I invite you to go through those, but let me just address directly the problem with what this character folder structure setup is, and just go through the two ways to create a custom character in Cartoon Animator that I've been able to discover in the last few years working with the software. So the first thing to note here is none of these folders that have been created for this character are correctly set up or named. And so that's going to be a huge issue there. So number one, if I import this to Cartoon Animator and import it as anything but a here, let me just give you an example. So we're going to come into Cartoon Animator, and it's probably going to crash because it's not set up correctly. Let me just drag it in. I'm on a Mac this time, although I can do this in a PC. Now, you're going to have three options: a prop, scene, and a bone actor. Now, obviously we want this to be a bone actor, but the problem is if we import it as a bone actor, Cartoon Animator is going to be a little confused because the folder structure is just not in any way, shape, or form reflective of what it's looking for. And as a former programmer, if it's not perfect, it's not going to work. And that might be scary, but it's not. You just have to get used to the way the folder structure works, and I'll show you a way to do that. It's super easy. So I'll let that go as well. I actually need Cartoon Animator, so we'll see what happens here. I might speed this up. All right, while that's continuing to import, let me show you the proper thing that should happen when you have properly set up your character, your custom character. So I'm going to go grab one of mine in just a second here. So it finally loaded, and already it's just a wreck. And this isn't an insult to anybody. It is what it is. It's because the folder structure in here is not reflective of what Resolution's code is looking for. And there's an easy way to make sure you do it right every time. And I do discuss it in my tutorials, but I'll go through it on this one just so you can see what's going on. But it's just going to be a nightmare working with this way. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into the stage mode, out of composer mode. And if it doesn't crash, it may just crash, and that's fine. While it's doing that, let me go grab one of mine. Oh, there we go. Great. So I'm going to delete that one. Just hit the delete key. Great. And let me just show you what's supposed to happen when you drag in a properly rigged, oh, that's the Polynesian. Let me go African. A properly rigged character. So let's go in here, rigged. This one's set up. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Now in this case, my African American 10-year-old boy here, he's set up properly. And if you look at the folder structure, you know, don't let this intimidate you. But what you want to do, you have these three folders: the bone human, the talking head, and the RL image. That's going to be the body, the head, and the bones for the body and the head. And if you look at this folder, nothing is in place. So go back and look at those tutorials on how to do this up. But now let me just show you for an example. If I drag this in, watch how quickly it sets up because the code recognizes the proper folder structure. Boom, it loads, and I'm in. And I'm ready to come in here and work on the 3D head, right? And that's where most of my time is spent, is working on making sure that 3D head is accurate. And it's really easy to do this. All you have to do, let's go back into stage mode. And let me delete this character. And what I recommend you do whenever you create a custom character is always start in Cartoon Animator with something that they have created that works. So in this case, we're going to go to human. And I'm going to use Ted because Ted kind of fits the body style of this monkey here. Let me close my character. I don't want to save it. And now that I've opened up Ted, I'm going to go into composer mode. And in composer mode, I'm going to launch Psd Editor. I just like to do it head and body in one file, the max size that it lets me do here, and then hit launch. Boom. And right now I have a template. So all you'd have to do, for example, let's click on Ted's right arm. It opens up the proper folder name L arm. I'm going to go over to the monkey, drag his arm in, boom, and then delete Ted's arm. And I could just hit save, just to give you an example. And right there live, it saves it for me in Cartoon Animator, and you'll see as soon as it loads up here, that Ted's arm is now the monkey's arm. So let me come back in here. So a couple issues here. What I need to do is I need to go to Image, Canvas Size, and the width probably needs to be 3500. Height, I'm going to go 4500. Okay. This monkey is a lot bigger than Ted, and that's just fine. So one thing I like to do always first, and again, I showed this in my tutorial, so go and watch those. But this is to briefly answer how to get this set up quickly. One thing I like to do is come into my guy, my character, whoever it is, my monkey, get all of those, okay, drag it in to here. So I have a complete scaled model. I go ahead and I convert that to a smart object. And I bring it to the very top outside of every folders, turn the opacity down to 60% or so, and I put it in a position where I want it to be, where it's all visible. Looks like I need to go even bigger. I'm going to go Image. I could shrink the monkey down here and resize it, but I'm just going to keep everything simple, make the size the same. I'm going to go to Canvas Size, and the width looks okay. It's the height. I'm going to go 5400, see if that helps us. Boom, there's the monkey, and it's still not big enough, so I'm going to go Canvas Size, 6400. Let's just give ourselves some room. So this is a high quality graphic. Very good. So now that I have that, I'm going to lock that there, and what's nice is Cartoon Animator is going to ignore that because it's not in any of these folders. It's going to ignore that, and so I can leave that there, and what that allows me to do is as I drag in each piece, I just line it up like so. Okay. Now, to repeat, what you've got to do is, let's say we want to work on this hand here. We're going to come into this, the artwork, grab the hand, bring it in, and I'm going to make sure I'm in the hand folder here. See, I wasn't, so let me undo that. I could drag it up there, but just to give you an example of a workflow, I'm going to click on Ted's left hand. See how I opened up the left hand folder there? Click on this left hand, bring it in. Now you could design your files, and that's what I do I have a template where I just have the folder set up, and I could design every character using this folder set up here and just save this as a template. So I'm always drawing inside the correct structured folders here. And so now that I've got that left hand, I'm going to delete Ted's left hand, delete, and I've got the monkey set up. Now, in order for it to be rigged properly, I'm going to jump ahead here. So we're going to want to go back and forth, and just use Ray Illusion's folder setup. Now the head's going to be a little bit different with the eyes. Might be a little confused, and I do cover this in another tutorial, but you're going to have the normal eyes. Let me just see what this character's eyes are. Oh, great. So you've got the blink. Awesome. You've got the eyeball, you've got the pupil, and the lids. So what you're going to want to do, just to kind of give you an example, then I'll go back to the bone structure, is in this eye here, we have Ted's example. You're going to want to open up each of these. So I'm just going to hit Command, click, and then we have the iris, we have the eye white, and the mask. So over here, I'm going to want to grab the iris first, which is the pupil in this case. Make sure I'm in the right folder. And I'm going to grab that iris, I'm going to bring it on in, I'm going to line it up, boom. So that's set up, but it's not in the right spot, so I'm going to go put it in the iris folder for the left eye. I'm going to delete Ted's iris, and I'll show you how this works when I'm done. Now the eye white, you're going to want to have everything that consists of the eye white, and in this case it's the lids and the eyeball. So I'm going to grab both of these, bring them on in, and it's in the eye white. I'm going to delete Ted's eye white. I'm going to go ahead and convert those to a smart object. Now you have to have single smart objects in this, or it will take the top layer, Ray Illusion will, and that's what it will use. And what I mean by that is, rather than have these two separate lids and eyeballs, I convert it to a smart object. And what that does is now Ray Illusion will recognize it. And before I hit save, I'm going to get my mask. Now the mask is just the portion where you want the eye to go to. And so in this case, all I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off the lids. This is the mask. I'm going to drag it in. It's just where you want the iris, the pupil, to go to. And so I'm going to go ahead and delete that and that. And if I turn off the pupil and the lids, you'll see that the mask is going to be the exact same position of the lids, excuse me, here. Yeah, so it's going to be the exact same position. If I colored this just to kind of help you understand what I'm saying here. Just bear with me. I know that, this color doesn't matter. In fact, let me hit save and show you what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And already back in Cartoon Animator, you're going to see a huge difference. As we piece this together, give it a second. This is a lot higher resolution character, and that's fine. It still works depending on your needs. All my characters are 4K resolution when I create them. It's just my preference. And now if Cartoon Animator were to crash here, that's just fine. We have this PSD, and I'd go ahead and save this PSD under monkey template or whatever you want to save it, and we could actually just continue to work with this PSD. And now let's go into here. I'm not sure why Cartoon Animator doesn't typically crash. Looks like it's just struggling. Yeah, so it's not. I'm just going to go ahead and force quit, and that's okay. That gives me another opportunity to show you how this works without. Now that I have this template here, I'm going to make sure I save this somewhere in a folder, and I'm going to call it monkey template front with an F there. I'm just going to put it in my downloads. Save. Now I have this, and it doesn't matter that Cartoon Animator crashed because I can just drag this properly placed PSD into Cartoon Animator. So let's just do that for an example. Now I am all over the place a little bit here, but I hope you're kind of following along. The biggest problem with this file is there's no folder structure set up, and that's why it's not going to work for you. You have to go through this tedious process to get everything in its proper place, and then you can have the magic of Cartoon Animator where it's just the character's rigged and you're just animating. You're just on your way. So now that we had our first crash, one of the biggest lessons learned here is sometimes Cartoon Animator, from Photoshop to Cartoon Animator, what I found is the bigger the file, the harder it falls. This still works. We haven't lost any work. In fact, we'll just keep using this file that we're in, and we'll just drag it into Cartoon Animator once we're ready. But what I found is I needed to delete this giant, it's just a placeholder is all it is, and it's locked there. So I'm going to delete this, and then we'll import it into Cartoon Animator in just a minute, but let me just go through a couple more steps. I'm not going to do this full character because I think it's, from here on out, it's kind of self-explanatory, where you've just got to come in and learn where each thing goes. Everything has its proper place. And in this case, we found the left arm folder, and it needs to go in there. So on the right arm, I'm going to click on Ted's right arm and come get this right arm because it's different. Drag it in, and if you look, it's in the right folder now. I'm going to delete Ted's. That's the one we got from Cartoon Animator, and move this into position. Just using my shift and arrow keys. And now I've got the arm in the right position. And I'll just keep doing that. I'll do that with the torso, with the body, with the eyes, with the pupils. And to go back to the eyes, it's just a matter of learning, okay, here's the normal eye. It has an iris, an eye white, and a mask. And just learning how that works. Now on the squint, you might not have the iris or the mask, just the eye white, right? Depending on how your squint works. Or actually, squint's not going to be that way. It's probably going to be scare close. And eye close, you're not going to have, in fact, Ted doesn't have an iris. He does have a mask and an eye white. So in Ted's case, yeah, he has a mask. I'm not sure why. You don't need the mask, but he just has the eye white because in the close, it's just a closed eye. So it's just coming in here, using the folder that's already set up and replacing it with your own pieces, just one by one. It's tedious, but you got to do it. And it's actually, once you get used to this process, it's pretty quick. So last step before I end this quick example is the bones. Now you have the talking head folder, which is the head, the RL image, which is the body, and then you have the bone folder here. And what I like to do is I just like to zoom in and I say, okay, what is this bone here? Click on it. It's the hand nub. So the nub is going to go at the nub of the hand. And then you come here, and what's this one? It's the left hand. The left hand is going to connect the arm and the hand here, and I'll show you how this works, and we can talk about proper hand structure. The forearm's going to be at the elbow, and then this piece is going to be where the torso connects with the arm itself, and there's some overlapping that needs to happen. You can look at my other videos. Joe the Farmer is one that explains proper arm creation, and as as is the Frank the Turtle tutorial. You can go through those. I'll put a link in the description. But now that those are in place, I hit save. I'm going to go ahead and delete this placeholder. Hit save. And I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to delete this one, get out of composer mode, back to stage mode. I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drag in the one I just saved. Give it a minute to import. Hey, babes. Let's see, it didn't drag in. Let's try that again. There we go. The plus needs to be there. Give it a second. And again, this is, what resolution is this? Yeah, so this is a very high resolution image. And I won't say it's overkill, but it's definitely high res. So what we'd want to do is just one by one, we'd replace the hip. So there's Ted's hip, and it opened up his folder. I come back, here's the hip of the monkey. Now you always need to include the neck, and again I cover that in another one, so I'm not going to cover it in this one. So we just replace the hip and delete Ted's hip, and I'm just going to piece this together. It's not going to be perfect, and we just go one by one. Now we do the left leg, because he's looking at us, it's opposite. We put this left leg in, etc., etc. Then we delete Ted's left thigh, excuse me, and same with the right thigh. We bring the right thigh in, we delete the right thigh of that one, and we just go through. Now there's no foot, so we just delete these feet, because there is no feet. It's part of the foot, it's part of the thigh itself. So this is a simple character, I'd call it. And same with this, well, the right hand we need to grab, so I'm going to go grab that right hand, bring it in, and then delete Ted's right hand. And then we do the same with the folder for the face, and we'd add the tongue and everything else. So let's hit save on this. Okay. Now, just so it loads faster, because this is a very rich 300 DPI image that I was given, I'm going to shrink it a little bit just for purposes of what we're doing here. So let's just shrink it. Command T. See, there we go. And I'm going to shrink it down so it's not so freaking big and we don't have crash problems. I think it is a little overkill in its size. I think it's fine to design that way. But like as far as like getting it into Resolution and importing it, it's going to be potentially problematic because it's so high resolution and so rich, DPI and things like that. So just as quickly as we can, again, I have a full tutorial on this. This is just to kind of give you a head start on how to do this. I'm just going to move those bones. They're named right there, the forearm. The shoulder is going to overlap the torso. Whoops, undo. Same thing here. Just to kind of give you an example. And boom. And then on here, we'd have this here, that would be the knee. That would be the heel, and same on this side, the knee, the heel, and the foot, and the toe, something like that. This needs to come down in the center. Whoops. It appears that I may have, yeah, it looks like there might be some art issues going on with your art. In fact, let me grab the arm, Command T. Yeah, so I just found the problem here. So the art here, this is a great example of when you're doing art. I just realized why this is having such a problem. So if I look at this arm here, do Command T or Control T on a PC, look how big this box is, but it's just this arm. So Resolution is seeing an image this big, and that's a problem. So I'm going to hit Enter, E. I'm going to erase everything else in this image. Whoops. And just to give you an example, so this is a Photoshop lesson, kind of go beyond the scope. Now if I hit Command T, it's still there. So what is going on here? I'm just going to erase all here. Why? There we go. See how much smaller that box is? And let me just look at the body. Same thing with the torso. It's Resolution thinks it's this big, so that's a big problem. You got to make sure as you're doing these artwork files that they're clean to work in Resolution. So, and it looks like there's something over here, a phantom art. So I'm going to go ahead and erase. I'm just going to erase whatever phantom art it's thinking is there. Much better. Now it's just the body. Same with this arm. I'm going to hit V, Command T. That arm's fine. This leg's fine. That leg's fine. So it's just that arm and the torso. Now if I hit Command T. So that's important to just erase any phantom artwork that's on each layer. Sorry, this is kind of a scattered one, but I hope this is making sense and being helpful. So now that we've got a little bit organized, I'm going to drag these last 3 foot bones in. Again, I have a full tutorial on each one of these if you want to follow along, but this is just to kind of give you a head start on this character and why it's not working. Okay, so if I hit save, close that. I'm going to close, well, I'll just keep that open. Go to Cartoon Animator. I'm going to go back into the stage mode. This was my first attempt, and I just realized it was such a big file that I needed to shrink it down a little bit. I was dragging the monkey template. Oh, I don't know if I dragged it in right. There we go. I have to see that plus button. Okay, much faster. That image is massive. So already you can see we've made a ton of progress. I hit preview over here, and now we have a monkey that moves, right? And you know, we could play around with this and do all sorts of fun things. But the biggest hurdle that you're going to have to overcome is getting used to that folder structure so you can properly import it. And that was the biggest issue we were having. Why is it crashing? Because Resolution couldn't recognize any structure that you had in your PSD file. Then you can come in here into the layer manager. I'm going to do collapse my list, and you could say, well, I want the legs behind the body so they don't show. I want the, you know, the arms behind the torso, and you can rearrange it here. And I go through how to save characters in another tutorial, but I hope that's helpful. The biggest, again, to repeat myself, the best way to get a character like this, custom character, is to start with something that works. So again, go back to the beginning of this tutorial example. You need to come in and find something that Resolution has created. I like to find something similar, and in this case it was Ted. Drag Ted in, and this is your template. Work with this. I'm going to go to composer mode and PSD, and there's the size. Boom. And I'm sorry it took me long to see this, but your image is beautiful. Definitely draw in this resolution. That's fine. But when you bring it into Resolution, dumb it down quite a bit. 300 DPI is massive at this size. That's a big file to work with. I do 150 pixels per inch in all my artwork still, and 4K looks beautiful. You can look at some of my examples on my channels. But this is a massive file. I've never worked with one this big, and that's why it threw me for a loop in Cartoon Animator. And this is an iMac Pro with a lot of RAM and a lot of computing power. And so the software did not like the size of those files. So with that, keep that in mind when you're doing this. This is beautiful, but shrink it down and even go to Ted's size. Even a little bit bigger is fine. But like, we're talking massive. Just looking at the size of this tongue, you know, it's almost the size of his head. And that's fine, but you're going to have a lot of problems with it crashing. You don't need it that big, so dumb that down a little bit. But again, and just to be a little bit repetitive, it's all about starting with something that works, and to come into your image here, into your artwork, your PSD file, nothing's in place. It has to follow this folder structure. It has to be set up that way, unless you want to come in and create one from scratch, which is a whole nother tutorial, by using this create character. And you have to have every single piece already exported separately. And I don't like this way. I think it takes a lot more time to do it this way, unless it's like a spider or something really custom that's not human-like or has arms and legs. I believe this is the better way to go into composer mode, export it, and there's my template. In fact, I just save this as template, you know, and then put basic shapes in and use this again and again and again for all of my characters when I'm creating them. Hope that's helpful. Please let me know in the comments or reach out to my private message if you have any questions.